in Larry Lane last week.
Police say a 30-year-old man was going the wrong way on U.S. Highway 59 when he crashed and died at the scene.
And the Walmart shooter receives 90 consecutive life sentences.
Well, good evening, everyone. 80 degrees right now, but there it says it. The heat will return. Over the weekend, you're going to see more and more sun, and then next week, it's just going to be wall-to-wall sun. So we'll be talking about that coming up in a moment.
And in sports, we take a look inside the home of a Victoria General's host family. That's coming up in a bit.
You're watching 25 News now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker.
And I'm Karina Garcia. A 30-year-old man was killed last night in a crash involving an 18-wheeler. It happened around 10 o'clock in the 2800 block of Highway 59. The man who died was in a car going south in a northbound lane of traffic when he crashed into a tractor trailer and another vehicle. He is identified as Alexander Cantu. Victoria police arrest 2 men in connection with a shooting of a 19-year-old man on June 29th in the 23,000 block of Larry Lane. 18-year-old Filberto Gutierrez and 17-year-old Jordan Peña arrested for charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
Wharton County law enforcement officers made 2 drug arrests Friday at 1027 West Burleson Street in Wharton. Arnie Allen and Dion McDade charged with unlawful possession of firearm by a felon. They also face 8 drug charges apiece. Crack cocaine and methamphetamine were found. Multiple law enforcement agencies working with the Operation Lone Star Task Force served warrants in DeWitt County Thursday. 7 people were served with warrants ranging from misdemeanor to felony levels. All the people arrested now in the DeWitt County Jail. DeWitt County Sheriff Carl Bowen said this was not part of the governor's Operation Lone Star initiative and that none of the people taken into custody were involved in human smuggling or trafficking. Let's take a first look at your forecast with First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Pettis. Liked the rain this morning and then came back our old friend Mr. Sun.
Mr. Sun, yes, Mr. Sun is coming back. Mr. Sun took a vacation for a couple of days, went away, came back this afternoon, and all of a sudden it started warming up. Well, the good news was that we got that rain. The bad news is all of that moisture is now pulling away from us. And so what we have now coming up is a big ridge of high pressure that's going to move a heat wave from the southwest right over us again. We'll have more on that coming up in a moment.
Mac, thank you. Sentencing Friday for the deadliest attack against Latinos in modern U.S. history. The Walmart shooter getting 90 consecutive life sentences for killing 23 people in a racist killing spree targeting Hispanics in El Paso.
The sentence is part of a plea deal, but the gunman could still face the death penalty.
Keep going. Run out that way.
The deadly shooting rampage at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, stunned the nation nearly 4 years ago. A 21-year-old white supremacist armed with an assault-style rifle with the intent to kill as many Hispanic people as possible, taking the lives of 23 people and injuring dozens more. Tonight, a judge sentencing that gunman, Patrick Crusius, to 90 consecutive life sentences after he pleaded guilty to federal hate crime and weapons charges. Immediately after, a family member crying out, "We'll see you again, you coward." The father of 15-year-old Javier Rodriguez, the youngest victim, reacting to what happened inside that courtroom. It makes me mad, he says, but nothing we say or do will bring my son back. On August 3, 2019, Crusius drove more than 11 hours from Allen, Texas to the border city of El Paso, opening fire even before he entered the store. Police say minutes before the attack, he posted a document online denouncing race mixing and urging migrants to go back to their home countries. The killer showing little emotion in court, his lawyer saying Patrick takes responsibility for his actions and the harm he's caused, adding his client will leave prison in a coffin.
We hope that now this process will allow the community to begin to move forward and to heal.
The shooter faces a completely separate case in state court in El Paso, where he is actually facing capital murder charges. The district attorney has said if he gets a conviction, he will be asking for the death penalty. Mireya Villarreal, ABC News, Dallas, Texas.
And this brings us to your viewer poll tonight, and the question remains, do you support the death penalty for Patrick Crusius, yes or no? We take a look at these results tonight. 90% stand at yes and 10% say no. Thank you for voting tonight. Visit us tomorrow for our latest viewer poll.
2 men under arrest and facing murder charges in connection with a mass shooting that took place in Fort Worth's Como neighborhood Monday night. 3 people were killed, 8 people injured. KXAS reports Fort Worth police records show 19-year-old Brandon Williams and 20-year-old Christopher Reddick are charged with murder.
The only conflict resolution skills some are using involve a gun. It doesn't matter how minor an altercation may be, someone pulls out a gun, and then maybe someone else pulls out a gun, and it ends in death and tragedy.
The Fort Worth police chief says there was some sort of altercation before the shooting, and it may have been gang-related. The California governor wants the Justice Department to look into how migrants made it to California from Texas. He asked the DOJ to open federal criminal civil investigations into the transportation of migrants by flights from Texas to California. Last month, 36 migrants were driven from Texas to New Mexico and were then put on private charter flights to California. The State Department of Justice is currently investigating those flights, and officials also want the DOJ to investigate the transportation of 48 migrants from Texas to Massachusetts back in September of 2022.
A floating barrier heading to the Rio Grande River to help deter migrant crossings along the U.S.-Mexico border. Governor Greg Abbott announced in a social media video post that the barrier is being deployed near Eagle Pass. The governor says DPS is overseeing the deployment. Last month, Governor Abbott announced the plan to float the first 1,000 feet of the barrier. A human smuggler captured on video driving against oncoming traffic about 2 hours south of San Antonio. Newly released video showing the moment DPS troopers chase a truck tractor barreling against oncoming traffic and reaching speeds of 85 miles an hour. Authorities said he refused to stop for a traffic violation, troopers eventually catching up to him. A group of passengers running away as troopers rushed the disabled vehicle, among them 12 migrants who were apprehended. The driver was arrested and identified as Eduardo Aradas of Florida. DPS saying he now faces state criminal charges for smuggling and evading.
Forest Street will close between Bridge and Main Streets beginning at about 6 p.m. July 10th so that the De Leon Plaza expansion project can begin. The project will convert this block of Forest Street into an expanded pedestrian and performance area with a pavilion, seating, a public restroom, and space for food trucks. The project will finish in March of 2024.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. And then you'll be on YouTube with Crossroads Today. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 10. A couple in Kentucky angry with its state abortion laws after the death of their baby.
And tonight, the U.S. provides its most controversial weapon to Ukraine. Here's a look at Community Crossroads this weekend. We first sit down with Jack Greason to discuss his new book. Then Wind Services is here to talk about the hurricane season, and the Stroman class of 1973 makes an appearance. Plus, we have a national anthem rendition from David Vasquez.
Charles Manson follower Leslie Van Houten one step closer to being released from prison after California Governor Gavin Newsom said he'll no longer fight her parole. Van Houten has been in prison for 53 years for taking part in 2 fatal stabbings at Manson's direction. Newsom rejected parole for Van Houten 3 times, but a state appeals court in May said she should be released. Newsom said Friday he won't fight the decision since an appeal is unlikely to succeed.
In Kentucky, a couple decided to end their pregnancy after doctors told them their baby had a defect that would cause her to either be stillborn or die very quickly after birth.
But the couple was furious when they found out that strict Kentucky abortion laws meant they would never be able to see or hold their dead daughter to say goodbye.
I wasn't excited.
Heather and Nicholas Mayberry were thrilled in December to find out they were adding to their brood in Stanton, Kentucky.
And we found out we were pregnant with Willow 2 days before Christmas. So she was like our early Christmas present.
But then, in April, when Heather was 20 weeks pregnant, she posted on Facebook, "Please keep Nick, me, and our girls in your prayers. We just received the worst news about our baby girl."
And this is when we actually found out that Willow had anencephaly. It was just like a kick in the stomach.
Anencephaly, confirmed by 2 doctors, a condition where the baby is missing a major part of the brain.
How did it feel to hear those words?
It was the worst feeling in the world. There's no words to explain how we felt.
I was devastated.
Yeah, we just broke down.
Were the doctors clear with you about what her chances were of surviving?
They told us there was no chance. They said that either she would be stillborn or she would die within a few hours.
The Mayberrys wanted to end the pregnancy. They didn't want their daughter, Willow Rose, to suffer. And Heather's blood pressure was already high and could get dangerously higher as the pregnancy went on. But Kentucky law bans nearly all abortions, and there's no exception if a fetus has a severe birth defect, even one like anencephaly. 3 sponsors of Kentucky abortion laws did not respond to emails from CNN. Heather and Nicholas traveled out of state. They wanted to induce birth to at least get the chance to hold their daughter, but that cost tens of thousands of dollars that they didn't have. Their only option, surgery that did not leave their child intact, so they couldn't hold her.
Now we're grieving pictures, we're grieving footprints, we're grieving on a teddy bear. We'll never know what her face looked like. We'll never know what it was like to hold her in our arms. I mean, we're missing out on that. We're grieving someone that we've never seen.
Elizabeth Cohen, CNN, Stanton, Kentucky.
The family says the clinic would not give them Willow's remains, which they wanted to cremate. The clinic, Family Planning Associates Medical Group out of Chicago, declined to comment.
3 TSA officers at Miami International Airport were arrested after authorities say they were caught on camera stealing from passengers during security screenings. The 3 suspects are held on charges of organized scheme to do fraud. According to the police report, one incident happened last Thursday with the agents working together and distracting a passenger going through security and then stealing $600 in cash right out of their wallet.
But how do you bring people through and then you rob them while you're smiling at them? Is that a little weird to you?
You trust those agents, though, for the most part, don't we?
Sure. Yeah. I put them in the same category as like police officers and stuff. At least I guess you're supposed to.
All 3 were booked into jail and are out right now. Tonight, the United States commits to supplying Ukraine with perhaps its most controversial weapon of this war so far.
Now, President Biden decided to send, quote, U.S. stocks of cluster munitions, unquote, to Ukraine against the fight with Russia.
Tonight, the United States commits to supplying Ukraine with perhaps the most controversial weapon of this war so far.
And it was a very difficult decision on my part.
Cluster munitions, banned in more than 120 countries, can be launched by an artillery shell, rocket or drone. They scatter mid-flight and then rain down small bombs across a wide area. They can cause massive indiscriminate damage, and bomblets that don't explode on the ground pose a significant risk to civilians, especially children. The Pentagon says Ukraine is running low on artillery shells and needs the munitions to help the counter-offensive, which is aimed at uprooting Russian forces who are dug down in sprawling trenches.
We recognize that cluster munitions create a risk of civilian harm, But there is also a massive risk of civilian harm if Russian troops and tanks roll over Ukrainian positions and take more Ukrainian territory and subjugate more Ukrainian civilians because Ukraine does not have enough artillery. That is intolerable to us.
We've seen videos of Russian forces moving exceptionally lethal weaponry into Ukraine. That includes cluster munitions and vacuum bombs, which are banned.
But desperate times may have called for desperate measures.
The major concern from rights groups are unexploded ordnance that may pose a risk to civilians. And so as part of this agreement, Ukraine has committed to not firing these munitions into areas where there are civilians, to recording every area where they are used, and to a widespread demining effort once this war is over. James Longman, ABC News in Lviv, Ukraine.
Well, good evening, everybody. We had that nice little rain this morning, but this big bubble of high pressure is going to bring us back to the heat wave. In fact, you can even call this heat wave number 2. It's going to be parking over us beginning on Monday, and we'll be back to the 100-degree temperatures. So we'll have more on that coming up in just a moment.
Fentanyl crisis, unmasking the deadly wave. Join 25 News Now weekend anchor Adam Seibel for a 25 News Now Extra, Thursday, July 13th at 10 p.m. We focus on the alarming rise of the deadly drug fentanyl.
What you know about fentanyl is probably maybe 10% of the reality.
Fentanyl is easy to make and cheap to get, and it has flooded communities across the United States, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Don't miss this eye-opening extra that could save lives.
Back, everybody. We got some incredible video. This is what happened in Spain just yesterday. They had massive rainfall in the Pyrenees, and of course all the water rushed down into the plain. And this is the city of Zaragoza, which is up in the northern areas. You can see the cars floating down the river. I mean, when they say downfall, they meant a downpour. It was a downpour. I'm trying to get numbers as to how many inches fell, but You can see how it's not raining at the time of this water flowing down the stream, and you can see how cars are nothing. They're just floating little boats going down the river because there's more than 2 feet of water and nobody can drive in that, and your cars just float away. So it's pretty impressive and massive. This is not only us, this is all of the northern hemisphere. So you talk, Europe, you talk northern portions of even Russia, you're talking the Arctic Circle. All of us are under this dome of heat. Now, we did have some really nice rain this morning, 92 hundredths at Riverside Park, 1.5 inches in Ganado. They did well. And Seadrift got another inch, so that puts them at almost 3 inches for the last couple of days. But then again, it's all gone. You can see here the temperatures are going to be a little bit higher for tomorrow. We're looking at getting back to near 100 by the time we get to next week. Here we are in the crossroads. You can see how the clouds sort of just dissipated as the system actually pulled away. It's down in the Gulf. It's now definitely moving northeast, so it's not going to give us any more shot at rain. Tonight, we've got some vicious thunderstorms rolling through the Panhandle. They're now beginning to move into Oklahoma, but this is a sure sign that the ridge of high pressure is going to start moving toward us. Now, there's the severe weather, and all of this is the absolute heat that is now occurring in the southwestern deserts. It's going to get even worse. I'll tell you why. This center is going to move over the next 4 days and park itself on top of us, and you'll be hearing me talk about the Dome of Doom #2 beginning on Monday. And you can see the center, you can see high pressure all the way down here. In fact, pretty much from Nevada, California, Utah, Texas, all the way to Florida, because even this rain is going to go get pushed away. So we're back into the heat and the humidity as well. In the Pacific, in the Atlantic, things are quiet because of some dust. In the Pacific, we're going to get about 4 hurricanes that are going to roll out of the Pacific. It's okay if they keep going in that direction, but if they turn, then it becomes an issue that we need to deal with. Here's your day planner for tomorrow. If you're going to Port Lavaca, it's going to be, I think, pretty good for fishing in the morning because it'll be clear. Looking at a low of 81 and a very light wind. And so by afternoon, you'll be at 93. But in the afternoon, you'll see a couple of spotty showers, not many, not anything like today. And then for those of you in Cuero, you start off at 78, get up to 94. You'll see more sun and fewer clouds, and I don't think you'll see any of those little rain showers. So here's what's happening for us in the next 7 days. The weekend, well, enjoy it, have a good time. By Monday, you're going to hear me start talking about the heat index getting back up to about 115, 120. So we'll have to do whatever we did for the last 3 weeks to stay cool for the coming week. That's your 7-day forecast. I want to remind everybody we've got a QR code that we'd love for you to scan and put on top of your phone so you can take Crossroads today wherever you want to go. Here's Gino with sports.
Thank Mac. The Victoria Generals capped off last night with a 9th straight win. Let's see if they could do it again tonight. That's coming up after the break. At Crossroads, sports reporter Zach Brown takes us outside the lines and into the homes of some of the host families that care for some of the Victoria Generals.
The Generals have been on a tear, now sit at first place in the standings after winning their last 9. But there is another factor that helps go into their success. Host families, the guys you see hit the diamond every night, live with families that willingly take them in for the summer. One of those families are the Hicks. You can find them at every home game, but off the field, creating a family-like atmosphere for their players.
Honestly, the best part about hosting is really the relationship that you have with the players. You know, it goes beyond the baseball field. Of course, that's really fun, but it's the golf games and the dinners out and all the things that we do outside of Riverside Stadium that really builds the relationships. We want them to come to Victoria, and I've said this before to our players, really it's really about them. You know, we want them to have a good time, we want them to love Victoria, to love the Generals, and so our job really is just to make them feel comfortable. And again, they're our summer sons, so we're really just trying to hang out with them and show them a good time and let them know what the Victoria Generals is all about.
The players they host are starting pitcher Cody Gibbs and catcher Levi Castilleja, who are already a dynamic pitcher-catcher duo. They say living together strengthens their relationship and is something they have been incredibly grateful for during their time with the Generals. That is a sentiment the entire team has felt with their experience.
It's honestly felt like a second home to me. Like I can go home anytime and just feel welcomed, and that's how a lot of the host families have felt for me, because we have get-togethers at other guys' house, and they're all just some of the best people I've ever met.
Robin Hicks is the on-field MC of the Generals, and her husband Brandon Hicks rings the bell and is known for his antics out on the deck. But Cody and Levi both say that the experience of living with them has made their time with the first-place Victoria Generals so much more special. If anyone has doubts about becoming a host family and having a summer son, as the Hicks call it, Brandon says,
do it. It's the most fun you're going to have in the summer. It gives you a real rooting interest in the game, not just the Generals, but you're like invested in players because you're taking care of them and you're nurturing them and you're talking to them every night, you know, so it's well worth it.
Speaking of the Generals, the Victoria Ball Club led most of the game tonight against the Cane Cutters. Victoria went up by 2, but in the 4th inning, the Cane Cutters would take the lead by scoring 3 runs. But the Victoria Generals would win on a walk-off single. Final score 8-7. That makes it 10 in a row. And lastly tonight, the 7'3" and 1/2" first round pick Victor Wembanyama made his summer league debut tonight. Wemby got on the scoreboard early after a nice fadeaway off the backboard, and it is still early on in his career, but the #1 pick has high expectations from fans and really everybody. The Spurs went on to win the game 76-68. The Frenchman had 9 points, 8 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 3 assists. Well, that's your sports. Don and Karina, back to you.
All right, Gino, thank you. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10. We'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, a couple in South Carolina almost does not get engaged after the ring goes missing. Stay tuned and we'll see if they put a ring on it.
Pack the Bus registration underway for children in need of school supplies. You can register to receive supplies online on the Faith Family Church's website at myfcc.com/packthebus. Supplies will also be given Saturday, August 5th at the Faith Family location on Mockingbird. For questions about registration, stop by Faith Family Church Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to noon or contact Stephanie Cadingo at 361-573-2484. Now imagine this scenario. You're planning to propose to your spouse on the beach when you suddenly can't find the engagement ring. Well, Tyler Hale made an unusual request of Myrtle Beach police officers Saturday night. You see, he needed help finding his soon-to-be fiance's engagement ring, and he was moments from getting down on one knee when he realized the ring wasn't in his pocket anymore. That's when Beach Patrol Officer John Lively and Myrtle Beach resident teamed up to help the couple out.
I was just ecstatic to see like the community come together. So I mean, he approached the police knowing that we would help him first of all, and then you see this community member come up and also assist, and he didn't get asked. It wasn't anything of that nature. He did it out of the goodness of his heart.
The bystander used his metal detector to find the ring, and Hale was able to pop the question, and the answer was yes. So lucky gal, lucky gal.
And before the groom popped the question, the groom said,
Yeah, that was close.
Talk about
Thanks to the little guy going, doot, doot,
That's
doot, doot,
right.
doot.
Oh, man.
Finding the ring in the sand. I
Yeah,
like that.
there was doubt there, but there's no doubt about this weekend's weather.
No doubt about it. I'll tell you, I don't know, are you going to go lay out in the backyard? Are you going to cut the grass? Or you're going to do a little work? It'll be, standard hot, but next week, folks, unfortunately, we're getting back to another heat wave. So there's a 20% chance generally in the afternoon hours that we get a sprinkle or two tomorrow. It gets dry by Sunday, and Monday we start heating up, and by Tuesday you will be feeling that old familiar heat and humidity, the oppressive stuff that we had a couple of weeks ago. Those temperatures will be hovering between 98 and 100. So what does it matter? 2 degrees, 100? Triple digits sounds worse than 99? I don't know. But otherwise, have a great weekend, folks.
Thank you, Mac. And finally tonight, a Powerball player may be just hours away from becoming a millionaire. The jackpot sitting pretty at an estimated $590 to $615 million right now. It currently ranks as the 10th largest Powerball jackpot. The winner has the option of getting an annuitized prize worth an estimated $615 million or get a lump sum payment estimated at $310.6 million. Both options are before taxes. The next powerful drawing will be Saturday night. Best of luck.
Alrighty, get your tickets.
There you go.
Alrighty.
Can't win it if you're not in it.
No, that's right. That's true. Well, thank you for joining us for 25 News Now at 10.
Hey, join Adam Seibel for 25 News Now this weekend. Have a good night and a great weekend.